Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session on revolutionizing insurance with Google Cloud's data and AI solutions. Insurance industry is evolving at an unprecedented speed. Therefore, leveraging data and AI is key to unlocking new opportunities, enhancing customer experiences, and also staying ahead of the competition. The session in association with Google Cloud will explore how advanced data analytics, machine learning, and AI solutions are revolutionizing insurance. Over the course of the session, we will also learn how to maximize data insights to make data smarter, data-driven decisions, streamline operations, and also create customer-centric experiences. This session will also throw light on transforming customer experience and customer service with contact center AI, to automating document processing with document AI, and empowering insurance to innovate and grow. Joining me for this session are Ratnakar Reddy, Regional Sales Manager, Google Cloud; Sunil Kumar Jang Bahadur, Customer Engineer, AI and Gen AI Specialist, Google Cloud; Santosh Bhatt, Head of Data Science, Policy Bazaar; John Matthew, Co-founder and CEO of RIA5, I'm so sorry, and Naren Kachru, Head GTM, AI, Google Cloud India. Here's a note to the audience. If you have any questions during the course of the discussion, kindly leave them in the chat box and we will take them up at the end of the discussion. I iterate. If you have any questions, kindly leave them in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of the session. I will now hand over the floor to Ratnakar Reddy to help us set the context and give insight into revolutionizing the insurance sector. Ratnakar, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Vaishnavi, and welcome to the audience and also a number of our partner community who's on this conversation. This is a very, very important and for the large part of in our lives was thought of as quite a boring subject, which is the subject of insurance. But I think over the many years, through a combination of it becoming a mandatory product, to it becoming something which was essential as our economy saw growth and as the country prospered, I think today there's a lot of maturity and understanding that insurance in its various forms and its various products has become an essential element of one's personal lives, not only for personal insurance and other products, but even for corporates and companies, etc., all of them who want to embrace the whole continuum of giving a great employee experience and also resilience in business. India is the fastest growing insurance business in the G20 with about 7% growth annually, while the global average is between 2.5% and the emerging markets trend at about 5 points, which with, of course, the large demographic dividend that the country carries and with the growth in earning population presents a significant opportunity for people to embrace. Along with that, I think today there is an increase in the variety of products which people consume. And while there is a very, very well-regulated infrastructure available, I think today consumer demands are driving the availability of many new products. And today we will hear a lot about it from our partner community. Today, our Indian diaspora has changed dramatically in the way we consume products. While in the past, it was a very, very involved activity, today we are very, very comfortable about intervening digitally. And with the intervention of digital, it has brought about tremendous scale in the business. And what that also adds when scale comes is customers want not just variety, but ease and convenience. And that is where we believe that a lot of technology solutions come into play, including artificial intelligence. Today, we'll have a very, very, comprehensive discussion during the course of the day, not just during the showcase of some of our capabilities, but also in terms of having an eminent panel, which includes one of India's largest distributor of products in the insurance business, joining us to sort of share their thoughts around how they look at technology and how technology and artificial intelligence has played a role in that space. We'll also have one of our experts at Google showcase a product of how we can use artificial intelligence to improve services and capability for your end customers. And a partner of ours, John, as introduced by Vaishnavi, who's going to talk about how they're seeing impact with the products they've created, especially in the contact center and in the virtual interaction space. All in all, I think the insurance industry is a prime candidate for finding ways to improve efficiency dramatically for end customers to consume products and for customers to be able to consume much, much more improved bite-sized products as they continue on the journey. I was talking to some of the community in the business, and they say that today they have tremendous opportunity with customers engaging digitally and making available a footprint. Let's take an example of somebody buying travel insurance, when you are about to embark on an international destination travel. The moment you buy the travel insurance, there are many, many add-on products which can be made available to them based on what you can serve, or digitally to these customers. Today, a standard travel insurance product has a lot of things included in it. For example, baggage delays, has including flight delays, and sometimes even has things to incorporate for theft and things like that. But then if the customer was willing to share more information with you on what they're going to do during their travel, I think the opportunity to augment by giving many more products to the customer can be made available by using the capabilities which we will discuss during the day, especially with power of data and things like that. So we look forward to having a very, very engaging conversation today, and we welcome questions and queries from the audience. We're incredibly proud to be associated to talk about what trends we're observing and how technology can enable this capability. I think today we have people who are practicing this across the board, and I will look forward to hearing from Sunil Jung Bahadur, who's an AI specialist at Google, from Santosh Bhatt, who's head of data science at one of India's largest policy distributors, and they know a lot of what goes on in the market. And of course, from John about how he's looking at capabilities. So Vaishnavi, I will hand it back to you to sort of let's hand it to the next speaker and then, have this engaging conversation today.
Thank you so much, Ratnakar, for your insights and for setting the tone for the conversation as well. Next up, I invite Sunil Kumar Jung Bahadur, who's a customer engineer at AI and Gen AI specialist at Google Cloud, to give us a glimpse into the tools, processes that will help insurers stay competitive and innovate better and faster. Sunil, the stage is all yours, and post that we will take some audience Q&A if they have any clarifications further.
Hey, thanks everyone for joining. So let me quickly share my screen. So what I have in mind today for this particular session is basically walk you through one complete journey, right from let's say how you can create a marketing content for from insurance perspective, and once it is received at the customer end, how the agentic workflow will help understand the customer requirement better, and that particular stage, and then post that how this can be basically also used to evaluate different policies, compare those from the customer persona as well as from the agent persona as well. So we will see as part of this demo, like what are the places where the Gen AI will basically create an impact, and how it's basically enhancing the overall experience at every stage of this particular cycle. So without wasting much time, I will move to the demo part. So what we have here, right, here we are trying to create a marketing campaign or a marketing content for a particular platform. And as you can see, the details that is currently abstracted at the back end, the core logic has been abstracted. So based on just a one liner of product description and the product category, it's able to generate the marketing content for which is required for the specific platform. Currently, we are taking the RCS as a platform, but this can be replicated for the platform as well. So it's able to come up with the title, description, call to action that goes well with particular product details. It can be personalized for particular personas or maybe particular festivals. It also come up with the image prompt that goes well with that, along with the background and negative prompts. So now we have the image and the content that is being generated. So this act as a starting point as an editor or a marketing team. I can basically further edit that and maybe regenerate those images. But post that, next element is obviously all those content before hitting a marketing platform, right? It has to be evaluated on different guidelines. It can be company level guidelines, or it can be a platform related guidelines. So this is where the Gen AI or multimodal capability helps, where we directly dump all those images and the marketing text that has been generated, and using that is basically evaluate on all those guidelines where it requires more information. All those informations are provided automatically. Because Gemini currently supports different data types, right? It's a multimodal, so it can support a video content, audio content, image content, PDFs. So all those guidelines has been dumped as a PDF. Even the images that has been generated has been dumped as a PDF to that particular model, and then it basically process all those content and give us some evaluation result. So what happens next? So once I send the click, it will be basically sent to a mobile platform. So let's say I have received that mobile platform, and as part of this platform, we can also integrate a agentic workflow. So what it basically do is it is able to answer and understand customer requirement better. in the same interface where the messaging is received, as a customer, if I'm interested, I will like to understand what are some details about this policy, maybe some features that are covered here, or if I have some existing policies, I want to check about those elements. All those queries and FAQs can be automatically handled by this agentic workflow. So in the back end, what's happening is all those related contents or APIs, because this is agentic workflow, not the GenAI. So GenAI is basically used as a brain here. What happens, it has access to different tools, APIs, even the static data source to extract those content, also has the reasoning capability to have conversation with the human to understand their requirement better, and it's able to retrieve those requirements from or the answers from the APIs, or maybe from the document to which it has been exposed to. So for example, here the total premium that for the dummy policy document that we have uploaded, it's able to extract that current policy total premium is around 23,000 INR, and accordingly what all the coverages. So I don't need a particular separate bot to interact with it, or maybe don't have to call a particular customer service representative to understand those nitty-gritties better, right? So that can be completely offloaded to agentic workflow. We'll also see how this will also help in, like, if I'm looking for a new quotation as well. So this basically just shows like how that normal FAQ kind of elements can be automated. And currently what I have used is our Vertex AI agent builder here, which is our no code low code platform, just passing those elements and creating agent workflow by providing the reasoning logic, and some API can be integrated as part of it. So currently it seems like it's more like FAQs, but wanted to show a glimpse of how the interaction may look like on the platform. So this is a mobile recording. I wouldn't share my mobile, but this is actually a mobile recording that has been done over the interaction. But this can be also integrated in our integrated in website as well as the chat interface. So in this particular case, what we want to show, let's say I want to file a claim. So in this particular case, it will automatically ask a follow-up question. Could you talk about what kind of claim you are looking for? So let's say auto accidental claim. In those, it will ask for all the possible or requested details that is required to analyze those content to better process it, understand where the accident has happened, what has happened, at what time, what day. Do we have some resources around that, or images and document around that? So that it can basically raise a ticket on the customer behalf. And all this is basically happening dynamically. Now, what happens in the legacy workflow, like we have to call legacy or traditional AI, it has to be intent entity based workflow. So you have to define, the complete business logic, create those intents based on, this particular text. If customer is saying there has to create this workflow and trigger this pipeline, this is dynamically handled by the agent. And even if you see, I'm able to even converse in English and add conversation in Hindi as well. So it's able to understand that even if it's responding in English right now, if I'm saying something in English, it's able to understand like mere current insurance ka coverage kya hai. It's able to come up with those responses as well, right? And even now, I will also ask it to switch to Hindi language. Like we have tested with Hindi right now only. So it's able to convert that complete conversation to Hindi. And I can now converse and get all those details as in a Hindi translated language in the same bot. So that way, I am able to handle a dynamic customer experience from the user angle perspective. I am able to understand the user requirement better. Maybe at the backend, I can have some recommendation API to recommend them, what kind of policy or quotation that they are looking forward for. Maybe propose them after understanding all those details. Like in this particular case, if I'm wanted to have a auto insurance quotation, then it will ask for all those details around what kind of car you have, what model you have, can you give me the registration number, some other details that are required, so that for me to come up with some initial quotation that can be proposed to the customer. So just imagine like as a customer, now I have received a quotation. So the workflow is from the insurance company perspective or marketing team perspective, they create a campaign which was shared with the customer. They liked it. They asked for some follow-up questions, maybe understand that policy better. Now they are asking for a quotation. We have shared those quotations based on the understanding or the knowledge we are able to accumulate based on those agentic workflow. Now what happens? So there are two persona, right? If I have like I'm getting multiple quotation, or if I have an existing insurance already, and if I'm getting a new quotation, obviously I would like to basically compare those policies. In that workflow as well, the generative AI will be really helpful. What it can do is, like, let's take an example from the customer perspective. I have one existing policy. I'm trying to compare with the some other quotation that I have got. So just passing those PDF, because the Gemini can ingest multiple PDFs as well. I'm able to compare, okay, these are the gaps in the current policy and the different policies that I have received. What was the conclusion? What was the pros and cons of all those elements? Like in this particular element, there is no personal accident cover for the driver and passenger. Maybe it has a higher damage premium. So this will basically help me quickly evaluate, okay, and basically take a call to basically which policy to opt for, right? And also it basically recommend something based on the current policy that has been showcased to it. But if you change the persona from the customer to agent, obviously, if I'm creating or proposing particular policy to a customer, if I know, okay, this is the existing customer policy, I can quickly evaluate how my offered policy is in compared to customer policy. And it's able to even recommend, okay, this is where my current policy or offered policy is lagging, which if I should basically incorporate in my policy to make a better deal to the end customer to close that sale, right? So from agent perspective, obviously the details or the comparison result that is required, even if the PDF and the document remains same, the persona changes, the output that needs to be evaluated can be changed. So whole idea of this is like now, even if we have different policy or quotation generated, from agent perspective, I'm able to offer a better deal to the end customer based on what they already have, compare what I'm offering, where the gaps is, maybe mitigate those gaps, maybe offer the better deal to the customer to make that sale. From customer angle perspective, I'm able to make a better decision which policy to offer, which policy might be better for me. And all this, like from the insurance perspective, insurance agencies perspective, they're able to better gauge the customer requirement directly using the agentic workflow, maybe get all those leads and maybe requirement, and then pass to the customer representative agent to have the interaction or more fruitful interaction, because now they have all the complete context around the customer, what they are looking for, what product they are looking for, what their interest area, and maybe some more details which are required or which might help customer representative to basically have a better interaction with the end customer. And at the first part, what we have seen is how you can quickly customize those images. I don't have to be completely trained on prompt engineering for a specific model that being used in the backend and create a specific prompt for my marketing campaign. I can just provide and abstract those content and add my own business logic in the backend. My development team can create it, and from marketing team perspective, I just have to provide couple lines of element from the product description or product type perspective, maybe persona theme, festival theme, for which I want to create a marketing campaign. And all those messaging, marketing campaign images can be generated by the generative AI. So these are like these are few things that I wanted to cover as part of this demo to showcase. See, from marketing, content generation to customer and the agentic persona, how generative AI can be used. Obviously, there might be different application, not from the insurance perspective, where the generative AI can be leveraged. But just at one journey that I wanted to cover as part of this today's session. I hope that it was useful. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that.
Sure, Sunil, thank you so much for those insights. And it was really amazing to see such work at play. Is there anything that you want to add that I might have missed out on? Okay, so Sunil, whatever questions come in, right, I will address it at the end, and then we can take it abroad.
Sounds good. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the lovely presentation. Next, we move to the panel discussion on modernizing insurance IT, cloud infrastructure for competitive advantage. Joining me for the conversation will be Ratnakar, Santosh, and John. Santosh, as you are heading the data science at Policy Bazaar, you're better placed to answer this. How are insurers currently leveraging data analytics and ML tools to transform areas like prices, claims management, underwriting, and fraud detection?
Hello, everyone. Just to introduce, my name is Santosh Bhatt. As introduced, I head the data sciences for Policy Bazaar, which has broadly 3 or 4 verticals. So coming to the question, Vaishnavi. So, see, I think in today's age, I think it's pretty imperative to kind of basically use data analytics to kind of drive different types of decisioning. Let's take the case of, let's say, basically, I mean, see, if you're talking about basically underwriting, pricing, claims management, and fraud detection, the different areas, it's actually a vast area. I'll talk about fraud detection, right? So in fraud detection, depending on which business you're talking about, like let's say it's a general insurance, there are different types of frauds that happen. Let's take the case of motor insurance. There is a different type of fraud where people are actually forging different documents to kind of underrepresent or basically claim for something which is not, right. So now there you basically right now, if you think about it, you either you basically get it inspected through people, which takes a lot of time, but there are AI technologies, for example, some of these things that we use, which can actually, like for example, can you detect forgery in the documents, right? So that's possible to do, right? So these are some of the examples. Now, in case of life insurance, there is it's a lot more stricter, right? In the sense that in the checks that we do, things like face matching, voice matching, document verification. We also actually kind of record all the calls in case of Policy Bazaar. So those are actually, AI plays a significant role in understanding if there are outliers in the conversations that have happened, right? So this is one use case in essentially in fraud detection or fraud management. Let's take the case of basically claims. Now, if you want to automate the entire claims process, let's take the case of basically motor insurance, right? I mean, not just us. I think the industry is kind of embracing AI to kind of automate this AI flow. For example, if there is a claim on a motor, and we can actually I think for most cases you don't need a person to go there, inspect the damage that has happened. Today's technology, the AI methodologies are able to kind of detect and assess the damages that are happening on the vehicle. I believe 60-70% of that in many companies, they're already doing this.
So you gave us some case studies as well and examples, and I'm grateful, Santosh, you set that up. In the same vein, if you could also talk about how are insurers leveraging data analytics not just to streamline operations, but also to innovate and introduce new products or services as well?
Sure. So, see, I think insurance in India is a highly regulated market, and pretty much basically most of the new products that are getting launched has to be kind of approved. However, what happens is, if you think about so there's so much of data that is generated, across different touch points, right? So you could actually have the social footprint of a person coming in, where you get actually a lot of information about the user. There are certain things that information that the customer actually has to fill up. Then there are basically the entire behavioral aspects that we actually can track. So all of this combined with, let's say, basically the claims, or even basically the basically the purchase patterns, right? If you look actually bringing all of those things together, you could actually look at basically some innovative products. Actually, I believe this is my personal opinion. I believe the way things are moving forward, eventually, I think there will be very specialized, like a personalized kind of pricing that could happen, right? In not in maybe every single insurance kind of plans, but at least in some of them. Like for example, in motor insurance, we've already seen some newer kind of pricing that are coming. For example, your pay as you drive, that concept that has come essentially through data analytics, right? If you actually think about it.
Yep. So there'll be a stronger hint of data analytics and aggressive personalization going forward as well.
Absolutely. And the interesting, I mean, really what data analytics actually enables us to do is kind of start building, segments of people as to where you can actually start thinking about some differentiation of products.
Yep.
And the pricing, right? Even in the health insurance, you actually see some interesting products that are coming out. Like for example, based on the fitness level and the health tracking and so on. So those are some new age products that are coming. Again, thanks to data analytics that is playing the role here.
Perfect. Thank you, Santosh. John, I would like to hear your insights as well on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think our approach as ReFi, what we want to kind of do with analytics and decision making is to kind of replicate human perception. So if you think about it, what makes humans uniquely us, right? It's the ability to perceive given any context. So depending upon how the context changes, the perception of a person also kind of changes, right? So this uniqueness about how we kind of perceive things, how we perceive context, I think that is what makes our decision making incredibly nuanced. So theoretically, if you think about it, perception-driven analytics can probably give you better insights and results because you're kind of replicating the depth in a human's kind of thought process. Now, the challenge here is the flip side, right? Perception, how I perceive the world is different from how Vaishnavi, you perceive the world the same way like we perceive. So there is a difference in how perception happens. But when we kind of deploy in an enterprise use case, especially a regulated industry like insurance, how do we kind of now align this perception to the way the client wants? So I think that is where the unique power of being able to fine tune a generative AI model comes in. So the client can bring their business logic, and we can now entirely fine tune this perception that is aligned perfectly with the client. So I'd like to quote an example here. So there was this cool experiment that we did with one of the BFSI partners. So they had this idea that based on the feedback from the clients and based on how the calls happen in the call center, they would kind of start improving their product line, right? Now they continuously went about this for a year. They improved almost all aspects of the top 20 things that were discussed in call center calls. Now their expectations, obviously, in the next year, these top 20 things will not repeat, or at least it has to come down. Now the calls still kept getting tied to these 20 things. So they wanted to kind of manually verify if this was actually what was happening in these calls. So they put a team of human analysts, 10 of them, and they kept listening to all the calls that are already tagged and classified by call center agents. Now, their surprise, all of these calls now had entirely different meanings to what the call center agents had actually tagged them to. So obviously, if you think about it from on a hindsight, it makes sense because the call center agent is kind of optimized to probably give you the fastest closure on a call, rather than it being an accurate detection of what happened in the call center, in the call. So what we helped the client kind of do is we kind of took the process that the human analyst did, replicated an AI model, and then fine-tune that for 10 languages. So the analysts were doing it in English and Hindi. Now we were able to kind of get it to 10 different languages using Gemini, and then the unique insights that are driven out of those conversations are significantly better, right? So I think the way we probably have to kind of think about analytics, like in today's world, especially with the power of large language models, is probably how can I kind of bring my human perspective? If I was a human being was looking through all of this data, how would I kind of perceive these decisions? How would I kind of make those informed choices? And if once you have that business logic, you can probably get people to kind of build those models for you and then scale it exponentially.
So human nuances that needs to be brought into machine-driven decisions. Thank you so much, John. Ratnakar, I would like to bring you in here. And if you could highlight what role does data-driven decision-making play in all of this? Santosh spoke about using data products, and John spoke about prescription-driven analytics. What's your take on it?
See, I think one which is incredibly important to pick up from where Santosh mentioned was to say that this is a highly regulated business. So one has to be very, very clear that, we will have to conform to what is approved for them to be created and offered to customers. So I think that is one pivot which is very, very central to the thing. The second pivot, which is very central, is the whole thing around customer experience. Now, once you take a pre-configured, approved set of products, I think there's a lot of innovation possible on top. For example, today, and I alluded to the example earlier in the day, that there is a lot of variety of insurance now available over and above, what primary insurance the customer comes to purchase. For example, Santosh, during our interaction, used to mention to us that most of their customers today own more than one product from them, typically more than sometimes two products that they own from them. Now, that presents them with an opportunity to not just understand the life stage of a customer, but even lifestyle of a customer, plus the digital footprint that today people are easily leaving around for people to consume. So, for example, today we have great digital footprint, for example, left on IRCTC, where customers can choose to buy insurance on their travel. And that's a small ticket item sold at scale, can be monetized with the power of data. So the next time you're trying to make a travel booking, you'll get an automatic prompt saying that, hey, listen, the last 25 times you booked insurance, would you like us to add it on here as an example, right? And it's all about building convenience. The second one is around the whole thing about the ease of purchase with the power of data and information, which I think makes it very, very easy for customers to interact with the flow when they go through the experience of purchasing the product. How do you make better decision making? How do you get the power of choice? How do you compare between policies, like how our colleague Sunil Bahadur had mentioned? Second, very, very importantly, and some of our customer companies are experimenting with this, is around using technology to solve for problems like claim processing at scale and at ease. So many of our customers today are experimenting with small things. For example, can I use your dash cam footage for me to interpret whether your claim settlement is a justified claim settlement or not? And today a customer can upload a video of their dash cam footage. There'll be an automated agent that analyzes the output and then does attempt to do straight through claim processing when applicable and possible. So that's a classic example of what we can do. And of course, the example that John mentioned around saying, can I just digitally improve interaction of the customer so much that today there's a lot of information is available easily for them to do this. I think ranging from customized products to ease of convenience during the point of purchase and during the journey that the customer has got is becoming a very, very big opportunity, Vaishnavi. And we're seeing that customers are using technology at each one of those layers.
Noted. Ratnakar, we spoke about ease of purchase, right? Which also brings in that kind of innovation. To stay competitive or lower costs or innovate more effectively, what ways can modernizing IT systems with a scalable cloud infra help?
It's a very, very pertinent point, right? And if one were to think about a decade ago, and you were going to be on international travel as an example, there would be this sense of caution to finish all activity prior to departure on purchase of a product. I think today, with the power of being able to scale through digital intervention products which have been created by companies, as an example is Policy Bazaar, today you can be on your way to the airport and still purchasing incremental products. Maybe you have a mandatory conforming product that you purchase, but you want to purchase incremental products during your journey. You've got some expensive kit that you want to insure. You want to do an incremental activity. I think today there's ease available. And I can tell you this, that the systems that are used to create the product don't have the flexibility that the end customer now demands out of the product. For example, today you want to buy digitally engaged through your mobile phone. Now, if you were to go back to how the systems of record operate, I don't think they're very friendly for you to receive that input. But today, with the intervention of cloud, mobile, and ubiquitous data access, customers are able to engage at tremendous scale with these products and buy dynamic products. Not just the manufacturer can create a dynamic product, the distributor can give a great experience to the customer, and people can consume. So if you were to sort of think about, even with the most scalable products in insurance today, I think branch visits and having people come and assess has dramatically reduced as a percentage of what we do. Not just in the area of purchasing new claims or purchasing new policies, but also in the area of settling claims. Today you're able to do straight through processing. For example, a great example is on a two-wheeler claim processing. You don't want to have that vehicle inspector from the insurance agency actually visit, because that might be more expensive than settling the claim. So today you might ask the person to just upload some images and then do a dynamic processing and then scale it up. Now, this was never possible if you were to depend on your systems of record for you to do this process. So today you're able to extend this by building a lot of innovation, but using a lot of the technology. And what other place than cloud to deploy it, primarily because you can get scale. Insurance sometimes is a seasonal business. There is peaks and troughs in the business, and you want to cater to all of that. So what we believe is that technologies like cloud play a key role, not just in making this accessible and affordable, but also in terms of being able to give you scale and give you a lot of new technology that can be embedded, Vaishnavi.
What are the challenges, Ratnakar, when insurers make this transition, and how can they overcome it?
Actually, one of the things that they've always treaded with caution is to say, how can I keep the customer at the center of the problem, and hence make sure that they have a platform of reputation for the customer to engage with, because the experience has to be maintained exactly in the same way. So the opportunity for them is to say that, can I develop robust applications where I can easily integrate with APIs, not just our own infrastructure and consumption, but even external consumption, material. So for example, today, you want to do registration verification. You can go up and look up a system and come back. And a good analogy in the business of lending is to say, how quickly can you access a CIBIL score and be able to offer this system? Now, today, what happens is the insurance product creators actually have a very, very highly regulated and compliant and secure systems. Now, for those systems to be able to expose their capabilities for people to consume them, to come and create new products, is one of the areas that they sort of find as the opportunity of creating dramatic improvement, right? Otherwise, you get constrained by what you have in the backend. Additionally, even in the complete value chain that customers have, we have discovered that that is the opportunity to discover, and hence being able to expose your systems out in a way that is compliant, regulated, and secure seems the big opportunity that we've seen, Vaishnavi.
Noted, Ratnakar. Thank you. Santosh, you are a digital native company. How does it play in your advantage when these kind of technology stack has to be assembled?
So that's, I think, basically being a digital native sort of means that, you kind of start experimenting with all the newer technologies and how it can benefit. So to me, I mean, basically, I think Ratnakar hit upon all the right points. Cloud is an enabler, right? It scales.
It
does. Scales up or down as you want it to be. And then, basically, people like Google, I mean, like the Gemini, all of that, like all the newer advances that comes in, it actually is available even today as like a API, right? I mean, as a service.
Yes.
So now that helps us to kind of, leapfrog some of the, things that we want to do, like in the sense in terms of the capabilities and so on. So when we assess, I mean, so we've been with on the cloud for a long time now. So basically, we always look at the newer trends, the newer technologies, and partner with Google on getting some of these things done. Right. So I think that's how we use it.
Noted. John, industry's first brush with Gen AI has been automating and enhancing contact centers. How can AI, you think, help insurers deliver more personalized customer experiences? Now, what's the long-term impact of Gen AI on cost and human resources as well?
All right. So two parts to that question, right? So one is how do you kind of build a personalized and empathetic customer experience? So I think there are like three primary challenges. I'd probably like brush upon them and then maybe focus on one. So one is, how do we kind of create an AI model that is it has ethical conscience, has explainability, and all the skills that is required to perform the use case that we are trying to make it solve. So you can think about this as the long-term memory of a human being, wherein you learn skills like our ability to read, write, hold a conversation, all of that. Right? That's one piece. The second piece is probably like the business logic of the client, and then what are the knowledge base that we need to interact with. And finally, to make it personalized, how do we bring the user's persona, right? So probably like achieving the first piece is probably the hardest, right? How do we kind of create conscience into a model? Now, why this is important is like everybody has tried to kind of create a generative AI use case using a foundational model, probably are kind of at the POC's level. How do we kind of get this from a POC to a production kind of a level? Now, the challenge here is you probably were getting right responses. Now you get a wrong response. Now, if you do not have an explainability or some level of conscience, how do we kind of, ask the person or the model, why did you answer this question? So if this was an actual employee, that's what you would do, right? You would ask the person, hey, why did you give this answer to this customer? And then that employee would have some rationale. Okay, this is why I saw this thing in this document. That's why I said this, or this is what you told me to do. Now, without this explainability, what happens is it becomes incredibly difficult to debug. Right? So I think that's one of the pillars in terms of building this whole conversational experience for customers. How do we kind of ensure that the AI, first of all, has some level of ethical conscience, so that it does not go off the guards, does not kind of end up swearing the customer. It has to be empathetic and all of that, right? And then on the second side, how do we kind of make it explainable? How do we kind of know why an answer went wrong or why an answer went right, and how can we add a fix to it? Now, moving to the second portion is how do we kind of ensure that this portal implementation actually makes a lot of sense in terms of an ROI perspective. So two sides, again, one is like how do we kind of bring the cost down? So we are seeing in our implementations north of 1 million queries being addressed every month, right? And then some of these platforms, we urge our customers also to kind of bake in systems wherein you can also sell a product also. So you're seeing 1.5 million queries answered. You're seeing around 1 crore of money being minted in terms of sales from the same platform. So there is a lot of money, as I said, like being cut from the bottom line and also being added at the top line. And on a long-term perspective, when you think about what is really happening is that we are taking the mundane tasks out of the call center agents or like your team itself, and now you're freeing up their time. Now they can kind of focus on high-value action items. So on a flip side, what we have always done or with the client is we kind of look at their top 20 reasons why customers call into their call center. Most of the time out of these top 20, we are able to kind of at least solve for like 15 to 16 of them using AI and automated systems. Now, once this happens, now there is all the other tail end kind of queries, right? Like what is after the 20. These all require more attention from the customers because probably it has to kind of go through multiple systems to kind of actually get a status, which really requires a human being to kind of intervene. Now, earlier, what used to happen is the first 80% was taking up so much of the agent's time, and it was frustrating them. They wouldn't really pay that much attention to the 20. Now they have enough time on their plates so that they can now kind of address these questions with more empathy and make it much more easier for the customers to solve. So one, how do we kind of create AI systems that have some level of ethical conscience? How do we kind of bring explainability to them so that you create systems that can self-evaluate and self-tell you? And then second piece is how do we kind of optimize a use case to cut your bottom lines, handle up to from the top 20 queries, get them to automate at least 15 to 16 of them, free up your employee time, kind of make them apply that to more nuanced use cases for the customers.
Santosh, your take on it as well?
Somewhat similar in terms of approach to what John mentioned. So you first have to figure out the areas which will bring you the biggest reduction in say the most efficient kind of use cases, right? Where you're going to drive the most efficiencies. So our approach also has been that these AI models. I mean, again, because we are still very early in the large language model space. I believe that we still have quite a bit of space to kind of move into. So we are still early, right, in that journey. So I believe with all the issues that we face with, like for example, hallucinations, the trustworthiness, etc., of these models, what we've actually been able to do very well is we put the human in the loop, which essentially means these are sort of decision-making agents which help essentially the human to kind of do something better, right? I mean, primarily from the LLM or the generative AI perspective, but there are other things that you could do. I mean, again with LLMs, but even otherwise. For example, the document AI, the automation of actually all the documents, etc. Now that can free up a lot of space, time for our agents, right? Now, the second thing, like now with the human in the loop, the second advantage that we have is actually that all the issues that we face with the models are actually given back as feedback, which helps us to kind of improve the models eventually, right? I mean, that's what is going on. But if you look at, I mean, if just the 4 or 5 use cases that we have deployed, like in the last few months, that has significantly improved the productivity of our, contact center.
Noted. Noted. So when it comes to unified view of customer data, Ratnakar, I would like you to step in. What role does customer data platform play in driving deeper customer insights and also creating targeted marketing campaigns?
See, I think it's becoming incredibly clear that as people are digitally savvy, I think there is a tremendous amount of information and footprint which is available, not just with regard to their consumed products from you, but also the potential for them to consume during their life cycle. I think today people very actively advertise, for example, on a portal like Policy Bazaar or a location like Policy Bazaar. Today, you disclose very freely if you own a 2-wheeler, if you own a 4-wheeler, where is the recent holiday that you took, the health plan that you have consumed. So today, I think the opportunity is there for them to look at a customer not just as an individual who came and purchased a point-in-time product, but not just in the case of Policy Bazaar, but everywhere else. If you go to a travel portal, you're today revealing information with regard to your choices and things like that. So I think it becomes imperative that you build this model, not just to re-engage with them on annually purchased products. On an annually purchased product, you get a friendly reminder saying, hey, listen, your insurance is coming up for due and things like that. But also to look at a lot of incremental journeys. For example, wouldn't it be wonderful if somebody discovered that, one of the members in the audience has a child in the 21-year-old range, and typically that's the time when they're going away for advanced education. And now you want to go on the customer data platform, generate an incredible offer to them to say that if you want to go on European education, we have a great insurance program to cover you, not just for 1 year, but for multiple years. Or if you're going to the North American location, we have a great product to cover you, not just internationally, even domestically, right? So I think there is a tremendous opportunity to remarket to an audience, to re-engage an audience, because audience acquisition, honestly, is far more expensive relative to engaging your existing audience and to sell products to them. So what we are increasingly seeing happen with a number of our customer population, especially in the digitally engaged platforms, is to say, can we create this path to a unified view? Nobody has completely got to that point of a unified view, but this path to a unified view where we are gearing our systems to come to a place where we can now consume off this system and do it. A great example that we have in the generative AI space is around how can you create cohorts based on things like vernacular, region. So, for example, you want to send customers out greetings, like the great image generation that Sunil Bahadur shared with you. Can you send something pertinent to them at that point in time? For example, somebody bought travel insurance to get to an international destination. Can you do image generation of a great goodbye trip to them using the CDP and using a combination of generative AI and, planning things like that for them, right? So the use cases are infinite to develop greater customer intimacy and engagement. And we believe that, this will pave the way around that. And most companies who are serious about their customer engagement are thinking about a CDP and then augmenting it with not just data, but even with, things like generative AI as we move forward. Yeah.
Perfect. So you spoke about the platform. Now we'll speak about another tool. Ratnakar, John, Santosh, I'd like quick inputs from all three of you. Document AI seems like a powerful tool for automating tedious tasks in the insurance industry. Can you explain how it helps improve data extraction, decision-making, and what are the long-term benefits for insurers? Ratnakar, would you like to go first?
I would have a technology view to this. And what we believed is today, documentation has still got some distance to cover relative to the place where the technology already is. So, for example, if it's in the medical space, just your insurance claims process, can it be more STP? In the auto claims process, can you get better STP? In the settlement process, right? I think in the process of onboarding a customer, there's a lot of streamlining happened because today there is reputation-based identity available, like your Aadhaar and your KYC and things like that. But I think I would really invite Santosh and John to share their views, because I think Santosh as a practitioner knows where that capability can be consumed, and John knows it as an implementing partner in that space. So Santosh, if I could borrow your thoughts and John from there.
I would give you one or two use cases, right? Rather than, basically, like for example, somebody is actually already purchased a travel insurance, let's say, I think today the customers, when they come again, they do expect some level of personalization to happen, right? Like, let's say, well, I mean, again, why would I want to kind of, ask him to upload the visa or the passport and things like that? Now, if I had the capabilities to basically sort of, transform, then it actually becomes a pretty seamless experience, right? He comes in, you basically kind of, you've got all of those things done there because of document AI, and then you sort of, personalize the journey for him. That's just one of the use cases that could be applied elsewhere. The second one is like the even the productivity angle, right? Now, earlier, even the KYC documents, although that's been handled, but the KYC documents would have had to be verified by some human earlier. Now, imagine the power of the document AI. It's able to compare between what has been filled up by the customer and then what's been submitted, and then that's automatically done. Just the time reduction that's happened is significant, right? So that's a sort of second use case that you could think of. Now, there are multiple benefits of actually, I mean, other use cases. For example, if there is a document, I mean, if somebody's already got a policy, can you actually, start understanding the contents of the, basically the policy itself, so that if there is a query, that can be automatically handled, right? So through maybe a bot, you could potentially think of multiple use cases there.
Thank you, Santosh. John?
Yeah, so I think I would like to bring that human perspective once again onto the discussion, right? So, like with document AI, fundamentally what is happening is you're basically trying to digitize any form of content. So it could be like an image, it could be like a PDF, it could be plain text, it could be handwritten. And once you get it digitized, that is where the real magic happens. So when you pair, say, a generative AI system also with a doc AI, what effectively happens is exactly like a human being would refer to these documents based on a process. So for example, when you're trying to kind of process a claim, maybe a glance of the document would be fine. You're just looking for high-level information in terms of the person and some details. You quickly pull that and then carry the process along. But if you're probably like trying to kind of assess risk or like trying to detect fraud, the human who is actually doing it would probably spend more time, validating different parameters, checking for security markers, and then that process in itself would probably be a little longer, right? So when you marry the generative AI capabilities along with something as powerful as doc AI, then that human thing is complete now. So you understand the use case. Now you're employing the ability to kind of convert or digitize these documents, and now you're pairing that with like some form of a human eye, right? And then you look at it, figure out, okay, what is the use case? Okay, I spent say 30 seconds looking at it, or like 5 seconds looking at it, and then the outcome kind of goes on from there. Now, adding these little tweaks, the same platform is just adding a Gen AI layer on top of it, but the kind of impact that it has is phenomenally higher. Because earlier you're only trying to convert or extract information from it, but now you're trying to kind of actually fulfill a use case. So these are all areas in which normal flows that you currently had, where you're using your human counterparts to kind of do it, use that business logic, and then create a generative AI systems and pair them together to kind of fulfill these use cases at a significantly faster pace.
Thank you, John. Now we'll talk about balancing innovation with compliance. Santosh, there are some challenges insurers face when adopting cloud-based data and AI solutions. What are those, and how does it impact the security and regulatory compliance in this shift, especially in a heavily regulated industry like insurance?
I think these are not hindrances. I would think these are guardrails in my opinion. So so what that means is like you cannot share the data, PII data explicitly, and there are a few other guardrails around this, right? Honestly, I mean, we don't look at so what we have to essentially do is you study the regulations and actually stock out a strategy on what could be kept, what has to be kind of kept intact versus what kind of use cases could be enabled on the cloud. If I were to actually innovate faster, I would actually even have to go to the cloud, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that, in the sense that it helps you scale, it helps you kind of be far more flexible, and there's a lot more interesting enablements that happen. So if I were to basically look at the regulations that the data has to be kept in an XYZ kind of format and so on, I would take care of that. From a customer's perspective, I would actually, I mean, in any case, we keep the customer's data as like the most sacrosanct. We keep it housed in like the system of records and so on. Those are kept in separate kind of systems, and pretty much kind of, you can build solutions on the cloud to kind of, complement that. That helps us to innovate much faster.
Helps you innovate much faster. Noted, Santosh. Ratnakar, what's your view on this?
See, I think if we have to be the ones who support and welcome this innovation, I think number one, having a compliant cloud infrastructure becomes mandatory for us to welcome the partner community, whether it be the end consumers, the producers, or even technology partners. Very, very clearly, if the cloud providers quickly get on board with getting the regulatory conformance for their products up and running. So, for example, today, our Google infrastructure is certified for SEBI regulated, RBI regulated, and RDI regulated. So there's a bunch of conformance that you need to do, and you hence make it available. So then you say that, listen, I now become the place where that agility is instantly available to the partner community, right? And folks like John and his company can come and build capabilities because now they know that conformance is available. So we're setting up some standards, which is, I think, part number one. Part number two clearly is that we will have to respect the law of the land. For example, today, a lot of the generative AI capabilities may not be available within the country. But if you're being very transparent with the consumers of the product, whether it's insurance companies, etc., to say what of that information is being processed elsewhere and whether PII information is actually needed to be sent out or not. In many generative AI use cases, you don't need to send personally identifiable information out to do any inspection at all, because today you're solving for cohorts and getting that learning and applying it to individual cases. For example, in images, you don't need specific images to do the process because there's a model that has learned it, and then it will bring that learning and share with you. So what I think we should be very careful and prudent about how that infrastructure is supporting the capability, and two, being very, very transparent about, how our models and etc. are set up so that customers are aware of, how they can adopt this. I think we've seen a lot of positive traction because our ability to interpret and understand what the regulator is saying and hence make that available to our customers, to consumers, helped us tremendously. The examples that we shared with you are all examples which have allowed us to do that for customers. I think as we had the eminent panel say, that without using a lot of this API-based capabilities available in the cloud, we won't be able to bring a lot of this agility to the business. And I think the place to make it available is cloud. And if that conforms to regulatory requirements, then that's a great way for them to get started.
Noted. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this panel and for sharing your insights as well. What happens is when the conversation is this interesting, and especially with AI data and for an industry like insurance, definitely there are some questions. So we will take some audience questions as well. I will pose the question. Whoever wants to go first can go. I will leave it up to you. Can you elaborate on the specific types of data and machine learning models insurers are utilizing in each of the areas like pricing, claims management, fraud detection? We spoke about it, but if anyone wants to add more to it, this would be the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I've sometimes debated this with Santosh with regard to what flexibility would be available. But Santosh, would you like to take it to sort of just illustrate some of the scenarios? Because I think people imagine that with more information, you have a lot of flexibility. But I think there is some flexibility available when you try to do these various three things. And you might want to touch on that. Yeah.
Vaishnavi, can you repeat that? Like, what are the techniques and,
specific types of data and machine learning models for pricing, claims management, and fraud detection?
So unfortunately, it would depend on the problem that you're trying to solve. For example, let's take fraud detection, right? Fraud detection in the two-wheeler or the basically the motor insurance is very different from the one that you would do, let's say, from a life insurance perspective, right? So now if you are actually looking at a fraud detection from a, basically life insurance perspective, so what would you actually want to see? You would want to check some bit of his behavior. These are the data points that I'm talking about. The footprint, essentially, the information that is shared, the authenticity of his, documents, vis-a-vis the declaration. And then you would actually look at the impersonation as well. Right? Now, these are different. So these are different things, and the models would be revolving around this. Right? Along with that, you would actually want to check things like payment instrument and payment, and his past behavior, etc. There is obviously, these are all the data point that you would like to bring in to kind of, again, it may not be essentially one single model. It could be a amalgamation of different type of models, right?
Yes.
Now, in our case, we do use multiple things. Like, for example, we're using graph technology to kind of, and this is again for faster, and finding out the interactions. Graph technologies to kind of, detect if there are any anomalies, right? The particular, booking comes in, let's say, right? So, and then you look at multiple other signals, for example, from the documentation, from his, digital footprint, and so on, right? That brings in, again, the decision is eventually kind of conveyed to one more, actually, a human team, which actually assesses it. We don't, but these models are not just one model, could be multiple models.
All right. So in the same vein, there's a next question. What role does data analytics play in pricing and risk management for new products or services?
Actually, it's a difficult question for me to answer. The reason being that, we don't do the pricing as such. But what really happens is the data that actually, I can talk about the data that's used for pricing. Now, again, depends on pricing of new products, or you could potentially look at even the discounting, particularly in some of the areas, right? Now, discounting, the pricing mechanism is built. These are typically the regression type of models that are running and could be based on multiple type of signals coming in, based on the behavior, based on the cohort that you belong to, and so on, right? Those are the discounting decision that people do, actually, models that people build, right? Now, on the new, for the new product pricing, etc. Now that's very different. Now, what happens is basically you look at the historical data, you actually build those cohorts and basically the segments that you kind of, you find interesting, and you actually have to mine out those information. Now, on those, then basically, people start thinking about new products, what could be appealing in terms of the products and so on. Based on that, then the pricing teams can get in and kind of start pricing.
All right.
So I'll augment this with a comment, right? For example, a widely prevalent shift in the auto industry now is the move to electric. Now, in electric, it's still an evolving phase in terms of how do you price for risk on this product, because a significant product portion of the vehicle is the battery. And today the manufacturer comes with a warranty and a bunch of riders and all of those things. But the point is, it's a very, very involved task. And today the power of data is going to help these people price the product, because they will learn through the process of how they've created a brand new product, and etc. Like Santosh mentioned, the established products, it's very, very clearly understood, and they discount it to win the customer business. But a brand new business like this actually presents, and which is where today, your insurance charges vary by the miles you drive, or the terrain, or the cities you cover. A lot of that variety is now, potential to be introduced, because the operator of the vehicle is now willing to give up some information for us to for them to get a better price. These are all, I think, where we believe that impact can come. Yeah.
Noted, Ratnakar. So one more question in the vein of generative AI. In what specific ways can generative AI help insurers create highly tailored customer experience that goes beyond basic personalization? Either of you.
I think we alluded to a lot of this, especially, right? A rapid resolution of your call, for example, in the contact center dimension, right? Where you get your response and you move on, and the customer actually feels that it has improved their journey. Straight through processing for low value claims. So, straight away you have a problem. For example, you lost your passport in an international country. You might just say, listen, upload the police report, upload some information around, what challenges you face, some documentation which is valid, and you don't have to sort of reach out to any of us, and we will process the claim based on what we have as information. So I think today a lot of STP is enabled through this, because then you're infusing your backend technology with a lot of AI for you to know, you can detect it, whether it is the rightful claim, whether you can rapidly process it, and things like that. So versus personalization, I think we're able to actually engineer the whole systems to become far more efficient and operative. A classic example we had seen with one of our customers was to say that how can you take handwritten documents and OCR them in a way using generative AI to generate near 99% accuracy. Of course, it will go to some processor to eventually verify, but I think it gets to a point where you improve efficiency. I mean, as an end customer, we'd be delighted if my claim got settled faster, as an example. Right? And I'll probably borrow some thoughts from John and Sunil in closing comments on this one. But I think these are some of the examples beyond personalization.
Perfect. John, would you like to go?
Yep. So I think rather than being stuck at personalization, I would rather focus on how we can get it quickly resolved, because most of the customers actually call a call center in the expectation that when there is a human on the other side, my problem will actually be resolved faster. Now the real deal is like, you get that call through, you wait, all that waiting time is just because you at some level hope that it's going to be resolved faster. So I think even if we don't personalize it for the customer, if we can quickly get it resolved, I think that is where most of the impact happens. In most of our clients also, we are seeing biggest impact. I mean, the fact that we make it very comfortable, that journey, that is obviously liked by customers, but at the same time, when we kind of, cut all the fluff and then get them quickly resolved, I think that has seen significantly better NPS scores for us. So I would kind of focus again on the top 15 things that people actually call into a call center for. How can we solve actual processes in it? How can we quickly get those things resolved? As Ratnakar mentioned, right? You tell this A, B, C, D, E, and then I solve your problem. And the fact that this does not work, I mean, it's so easy to tell this, but the fact that this does not work in 99% of the cases, right? I think that is where we need to all focus on. How do we kind of get the customer quickly in and out? I remember there was this once I had met with the UX designer of Google Search. So his perspective was, if you can't get somebody to find an answer in 10 seconds, then you have lost the search, right? So in the same way, how can we kind of create systems wherein you can quickly resolve the customer's pain problem, get them a resolution. You make it nice for them, great, right? But even if you don't make it nice for them and quickly solve it for them, I think that should still work.
That should still work. Perfect. So somebody has put up an interesting comment that technology does leverage affordable healthcare, but the approach to ensure affordability is a must. And they also list that that's exactly why penetration of health insurance in India is also poor. Is there a solution that we actually promote inclusion, or we go to grassroots with technology in terms of health insurance? Is there a solution that either of the gentlemen would like to highlight?
I mean, at the structural product level, I'll probably invite Santosh to share. But I think the cost of the insurance product is not just the cost of the build of the product, but also the cost of claims processing. How do you enroll? How do you then solve for the problem? A large part of the cost actually surrounds that infrastructure. And I think today, with a lot of hard work which has been gone on the technology side, a lot of this can be taken away. Fundamentally, of course, the product cannot be priced because there is a person, the person is of a certain age, and then he's prone to a certain kind of, exposure to illnesses and, whatever else that associates. So I think the pricing the product is a combination about, what you can do. I think a lot of the hacks that are going on right now in terms of breaking away these problems is around how can I improve that journey, dramatically, which is in terms of, and what you're doing is taking away cost from the periphery, because at the core, you probably cannot take away cost beyond the point, because, there is a cost to healthcare, and that's probably increasing at least at the rate of inflation. That's my view, but Santosh, anything that you may want to sort of augment to that, right?
Yeah, it's a difficult problem to solve, right, Ratnakar? So, so you can only kind of drive your cost down to a particular point, beyond which it becomes difficult. I think, whoever the gentleman who's actually kind of, left behind a comment, I believe, this is my opinion, that eventually it will come down to what kind of products you introduce, basically to improve the penetration. That could be one of the solutions. Maybe some innovative products which will not necessarily, don't come with the, the benefits or the fringes and so on and so forth, could be one of the ways to think about it. But it's a difficult problem to solve as such.
John, any closing thoughts on this?
I think awareness, probably. I think affordability, I understand. It's probably like all of these companies who are doing it probably have to solve it. But I think the fact that people don't realize having a X amount insurance coverage is significantly less money than you actually going into a hospital. I have had my stints with hospitals quite a lot. The fact that an entry and an exit out of a hospital probably will put you down by 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees straight. Right? If you spend like half a week in the hospital. but the policy premium probably is like 10,000 in a year, right? So the fact that people don't realize that this is so expensive and it's continuously getting expensive and the treatment is getting expensive probably needs to be solved. I think proper regulations in that side to get this awareness across to people. How do we kind of make people aware that, hey, this is going to be very expensive if you don't have this kind of protection? I think that's also kind of, very important is what I feel.
Perfect. Gentlemen.
I agree with John on that. I think awareness is one big area that I think people are focusing on. There are many areas in the country. India is a huge country, right? Like there are people where there's less penetration of even the internet and so on and so forth, and people are generally unaware. So I think that's another challenge that we need to overcome. How do we reach all of those? I mean, insurance penetration in those less penetration, internet penetration areas and so on. This is something that the industry is looking at.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, once again for sharing your insights with us. It was a great conversation and I learned a lot. I hope the audience also learned a lot. I now invite Ratnakar for a closing note to share his insights and wrap up the key takeaways. Ratnakar, the stage is yours.
No, thank you, Vaishnavi. And, it's been very, very energizing to sort of think about a topic which is very close to us, because I think financial resilience contains insurance as a very, very essential element. Just like we take care of working well in our professional lives or in our lives when we run our businesses, it's also very, very important to take care of, the comprehensive insurance that we can add to, the various engagement that we have, whether it be our health, whether it be our property and your automobiles and whatever else, right? I think it's becoming very clear that making it more affordable by using technology, by making it accessible, was a number of examples that were shared by the audience. I think it's also becoming tremendously clear that, the engagement that the customers want to have, has to get tremendously automated, because as we move up the value chain, I think we'll have more and more people come covered into that ambit. And we saw examples around each one of that as people went through their narrative. I think the responsibility is on us as technology providers and as people who enable, the distribution of the products to say, how can we make this more seamless and engaging? I'm hoping that the audience enjoyed the conversation and got insights and examples just as thoroughly as we did. And you're seeing that, while you may not instantly recognize it, generative AI is helping you solve through your problems, whether it be that shorter call in the contact center, whether it be that rapid processing of your claim settlement, or whether it be that rapid issuance of a policy because someone is able to look up some information and give you that capability. And that's, I'm talking only in the area of the consumer side of the business, because that's identified by the audience. And same work is going on the side of, on side of the corporate side of the businesses as well, right? It's been a tremendous pleasure to sort of engage with the audience today. The panel, a tremendous amount of insight, and Sunil's demo actually wakes up the thought of saying that, hey, listen, how can I create, rapidly engaging products and offerings to my customers, as well as, comparison of products and things like that using generative AI. And, I really want to thank the panel and Vaishnavi, you for sort of being the host here, and really appreciate the time to do this today.
Thank you, Ratnakar. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you for taking time to join us. Thank you, speakers, for your insights and for your time as well, and the Google Cloud and ET team for facilitating this. Goodbye and have a great day ahead. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.